Hello, welcome to Undisputed Boxing. We are here to review last night's action and go over our predictions from last week. So we'll start with Josh Kelly versus David Avanesyan. Not a great week of predictions for my man Rick. So let's start with that. Let's start with the matchroom card. Talk us through the fight and how you saw it, and any other fights that you saw as well.
Yeah, so apologies about my poor predictions, and apologies for my hair, which is getting more of a disgrace. But we're in lockdown, so what can I do? Yeah, I mean, I did pick Kelly on points, I think, and first couple of rounds, I thought I was looking all right. But I don't, I think both of us went for that. And, I think we knew it was a tight fight, so none of us are surprised. It's not a major shock to me that Avanesyan won. I think what was a bit more of a surprise is just how quickly Kelly folded. So he came out, I had him winning the first few rounds, and then the blood started flowing from a few cuts, and probably the body shots took its toll. And I was disappointed at how quickly he kind of folded. There was no slow deterioration. It was just suddenly went, and it makes you wonder if, the quality of the guy, and is there a weight issue? He's quite big at the weight. I've heard some stuff this morning that he felt weak going out for round 5, and whether it was blood loss. But I don't know if that. I don't even think he lost enough blood from the cuts to create you going weak. I'm not sure. I've never really heard of that before. But yeah, fair play. He was beaten by the better man, and. But I do question where he kind of goes from here. Obviously, he'll be back and he'll fight again, and whether he steps up and can takes on the likes of Cheeseman and stuff like that, or whether he stays at the weight. I don't know. I'm struggling. I'm struggling to see how he gets, into world title contention. I know he's 26 and he's still young. He's only had 11 fights, but the way he capitulated is worrying.
Yeah.
If that had been like round 11, I kind of get it. People tire out and it's like, just didn't quite get there. But it's almost like he started off well, did okay, started to take some shots and folded very quickly. And I think I said to you on the phone, if we didn't have our Kelly heads on and we didn't have our Great Britain heads on and we just watched the fight, you'd say, this guy, it's quite flashy, but he's not really got much going. And as soon as he, took a bit of punishment, he folded. That's kind of how I see it. That was the surprising bit to me, was how quick, how early it all ended.
Yeah.
Do you see it similar?
Yeah, I did. I was really impressed with the first couple of rounds. I was like, okay, look, looked in control. David Avanesyan just couldn't get near him. He was throwing a lot of air shots, and Kelly's movement off the back foot was really good. But then I thought round 3, I actually gave to Avanesyan. I thought Avanesyan looked a little better in 3, and I gave him 4 and 5, which is where he was really starting to do some good work on the inside and roughing him up. And Josh Kelly was getting caught. And I thought unnecessarily Josh Kelly was staying too close to him and staying in the pocket and almost trying to kind of rough it out a little bit. And I was like, that's not what he should be doing. He needs to be staying on the back foot, keep moving, keep winning the rounds. Because I think it was very clear he doesn't have power. That's the problem. And this is I was thinking about it, whether, is Adam Booth like the right, trainer? I know that people are very quick to kind of criticize the trainers, but if you look at that, he has a very distinctive way of training, and his fighters, they all kind of fight in that same mold. David Hay was very similar. It had the lead hand kind of quite low. George Groves very similar as well, just like the low, front hand. And I think it works well for David Hay because he had that sledgehammer punch and that equalizer. And George Groves similar as well. It worked well for him because he had that great jab. He had a really, really good jab. And it was good, very effective in keeping his opponent at bay. Whereas Josh Kelly doesn't have that same kind of power. And I just felt he was very quickly sort of overwhelmed by Avanesyan in 3, 4, and 5. And Yeah, he just looked uncomfortable. Now, whether that was losing of the blood, or whether he's just drained at the weight and is too big for the weight. But there's something pretty. I do still think there's something pretty special there in terms of talent, his footwork, his jab, his boxing ability, his ring IQ, his combination. I do still think there's something there. I know that you're probably less convinced, but I still think that he could come back, and I think that maybe stepping up to 154 would be the move for him. Yeah, that was my take on it.
Yeah. I'm not as convinced there's something special. Depends what you mean by special. But one thing that surprises me, because Booth was, and I know all no one's going to say, my man might not win and that, but I did really buy into how confident Booth was. He almost saying things he didn't need to say, and I'm just like, they talk about there's gym fighters, don't they? They're absolutely brilliant amateurs and they're absolutely brilliant in the gym, but they just can't turn it into performances on the night.
Yeah.
They say people say Price is a better fighter when he's sparring than he is in the actual thing. And you just wonder if he's going to go down that route, because what surprises, how he unfolded and he capitulated, surely they must see that in sparring. I don't know if he's getting the right sparring. I don't know how. And I know sparring's different, but then at some point you've got to be having tough and good sparring to get yourself better.
Yeah.
And it's almost that almost looked like he doesn't get good sparring. He just started to get rough and tough, and he folded. And if he's getting the right sparring, that you'd have thought that would have shown itself up, and therefore they wouldn't have been taking this fight. And it's another thing. We do this with our fighters. They go from for example, say Crawford's 100 and Avanesyan's 70. Josh Kelly's only probably fought 30 before that. Where's the 40s and 50s before Avanesyan? You know what I mean? We do tend to. So, but don't know. Quite a damaging defeat, I think.
It's a bad defeat. It's a bad defeat.
Did you see? Did you see the undercard?
I didn't know, but talk us through the undercard, or give us a synopsis of what you thought of the undercard. I know there was a lot of talk about Marco against Ryland Charlton.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the only one I saw of the card. But yeah, that was quite a good fight. It was a bit like well, it was quite action based. I can't remember how many rounds it went now. Probably about the same. I think it was about 6 rounds, or maybe slightly longer. But again, quite good action. And Marky was actually down off quite a soft left hook.
Really?
Seemed to lose his balance a little bit, but yeah. So Marky went down, but he was winning the fight before that. He just looked like the stronger guy, and then he stepped it up. And again, I don't know what's his name again.
Ryland Charlton. Florian Marco.
Charlton. Charlton. He seemed to just again. He just seemed to weaken as the back end, and then he got caught, and his resistance had just gone, and he started wobbling. By the way, both of those fights had really good corner work, stoppages. I don't know if people got their eye on it after what happened last week, but both Booth and Charlton's corner were very good at just, as soon as they got hit, they saved their fighters for another day. Actually, the towels came in very quickly. So both were quite good to see, because it was, neither are world title fights, and also it's, you can see that it was going to probably end in a bad one, like what happened to Warrington. So they're quite good corner. So yeah, it was quite again entertaining fight. A lot of action, a lot of punches thrown. But Charles was just a bit one-dimensional. Quite, probably not quick enough feet to keep up with Marku, and quite basic double jab, and then just like throwing power punches in that you can kind of see and block and maneuver out the way. Whereas Marku had that, came in with good stuff. And to be fair, Charlton could take the power to start with, but as he got tired, he just, couldn't. So yeah, that was good. I suppose we're going to talk about my other bad prediction.
Yeah. You also think about setting up your own channel for betting. Betting favourites. Betting favourites with Rick Saunders.
Win with Rick.
To be honest,
win big with Rick.
there isn't any footage of this out yet, but I didn't watch it fully. I was kind of dripping. I dipped in and out of the fight, to be honest, because I was attending to my my kids. But yeah, going for Father of the Year, trying to get my boxing fix whilst managing 2 kids. But yeah, I mean, Otto Wallin looked pretty much in control. He for me, he was landing the cleaner work. I think he rocked him in like round 6. You know, Dominic Breazeale came in. He looked in really bad condition, actually, and I wonder, you know, at 35, is there going to be any way back for him? I'd say probably not. But you know, he's fought for a title twice now, and Otto Wallin, you know, pretty much took care of him. You know, and he went almost life and death with Tyson Fury. So I think that's a good win for Otto Wallin. I think that firmly puts him in a sort of a top 15. You know, sort of ranking with you know, with most of the governing bodies. I would have thought. So you know, he's in a pretty good position. The Viking warrior. But yeah, so there was that, and Miguel Belchet versus Oscar Valdes that was really the one that I was excited for. Which, you know, was a thrilling fight. It really lived up to expectations. I went all out last week saying it's going to be an amazing fight, so I'm kind of glad that it did live up to expectations. I mean, it was a bit of a sickening knockout. I mean, nobody likes to see anybody get sort of stretchered out like that. But I thought a great performance from Oscar Valdes. You know, I gave him the first 3 rounds, I think, and then Belchet came in, looked a little bit better in the 4th, but he did actually get knocked down. Oscar Valdes dropped him, and then his legs looked stiff. But then 5, 6, and 7, I think he started to come on a little bit stronger. And then, yeah, Oscar Valdes kind of, his footwork, you know, boxing off the back foot. I was really impressed with him. I think I'm going to be a bit of a fanboy of Oscar Valdes now going forward. He looks the real deal at super featherweight. Something that I thought was quite interesting. The weight that they were both on the night, Oscar Valdes was 140 and Belchet was 147. And I know that obviously, you know, fighters come in weighing a lot heavier, but I thought that's actually a lot more weight he's put on the actual night. And I just wonder whether Belchet may move up a division to lightweight from super feather, because I mean, there's a lot of money fights that lightweight division. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he does next. And yeah,
I saw the last 3 because it ended on 10, didn't it? So I think I saw 8, 9, and 10. He was just getting beaten up bravely, and probably should have pulled him out probably after 9 rounds, if I'm honest. Yeah, you're right. It's weird, really, because he was hitting him with some really good shots, and they didn't seem to wobble him at all. He just seemed to rock his head back, and then he keep coming forward, and he just got caught with a peach one, and he just collapsed, you know, folded.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, you know, I think that would have floored him in round 1 as well. So he obviously carries power. Yeah, I'm not seeing the Breazeale fight, but I was a bit. I mean, you know, he's not done himself any justice, not coming in good way. I mean, I get the feeling, you know, with Breazeale, he would have made some decent coin in his career now, relatively decent, fighting Joshua, and you know, he's had a few other with Breazeale. He's fought for the world title twice, so there'll be relatively big paydays at heavyweight, and you know, you just wonder if, you know, he's coming back, he's struggling to get up for it and put on, you know, didn't really train. I just, you know, if you're getting beaten off Otto Wallin, makes you wonder if you should just knock it on the head now. One thing we probably haven't done justice is Avanesyan. You know, I know we're jumping back, but where you know, what do you think should be done with him?
It was an interesting one, because that 147 division is really dominated by, you know, we've talked about this before, it's dominated by the Americans and PBC. I'm not saying, I mean, I think, you know, they're all looking for fights. I mean, I don't think Errol Spence has got an opponent yet. I think there is talk about him fighting Yordenis Ugas. Sean Porter has apparently turned down a $2 million fight with Terence Crawford. And Crawford's looking for a fight. I think maybe somebody like a Danny Garcia, somebody who's on the fringe of that top 4 or 5, of which, I'd put Danny Garcia in there. Maybe Vergil Ortiz. There was talk of Josh Kelly fighting Vergil Ortiz, who's the Golden Boy 147 prospect. 16 wins, 16 knockouts. He looks to be something pretty special. Who else is there? Yeah, but I mean, a European title, he's really got to start with a world title.
He's with Matchroom, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, I think Matchroom.
I think he's got 2 fights left. 2 fights left.
Yeah, 2 fights left. So yeah, I think Hearn will obviously be looking to try and throw him in for a world title, but I just don't know where it's going to come from. Don't know where it's going to come from because Avanesyan isn't. I don't think he's particularly well known in the US. I mean, he could, booking a fight with Sean Porter or Danny Garcia. It's going to be a tough sell to the American market. David Avanesyan has fought mostly. He's based in the UK. He's fought in Spain, Russia, obviously. So, just don't know how they would spin it. But I mean, who knows? It could well happen. But yeah, I think maybe one more fight on one of those guys, and then maybe a world title.
Where do you think Wallin's goes?
Well, I mean, he's just going to be positioning for a world title tilt. I think that hopefully AJ and Fury happens this year. Once it happens, the second fight is when I think the belts will become very fragmented, and Wallin has got to try and get himself in there for a mandatory world title. And these heavyweights, if you're in the top 15 or even in the top 20, you're only 1 or 2 wins away from getting. I mean, look at Joe Joyce. He's absolutely had it off. He's fighting for a world title. And off the back of who he's fought, yeah, I guess you could justify his position.
Well, he's not yet.
Not yet.
He's not fighting for a world title yet.
Well, he's fighting Alexander Usyk next, and that'll be for the interim WBO title. And then if the WBO gets released after the AJ Fury fight, then that person will either get elevated to full champion or they'll have to fight for a vacant title. So he's 1 to 2 fights away. So you'd have to say, yeah, Otto Wallin is maybe one fight away from putting himself into a good position. So yeah, maybe like a Michael Hunter or any of these guys that are sort of floating around the top 10. Maybe a good fight would be Luis Ortiz. Again, another southpaw.
Yeah,
that would put him into kind of like a top 10 if he could beat something like that. I don't know who he's signed to. Is he actually signed with the PBC?
Wallins?
Yeah.
Not sure.
Yeah.
Not sure who he's with.
All right. So that's the predictions. So we wrap it up. So what are you on? How many predictions have you got right so far this year?
I think I've done 3 and got 3 wrong. 100% record. Let's see.
Well, this is why.
All right. Next week's is in the bag. Next week's is in the bag.
Yeah, let's do. We'll do a boxing news, and we'll do a quick prediction on Canelo Yildirim. Be able to get you off the mark for the year. All right. Thanks to everybody for listening. Please like and subscribe and share the videos.